time for the next chapter of, it's a bit shiny in here, The Stray. Okay, so chapter 6 is called Bombing. Do you remember from last time? One evening when the children were all in bed and Henny had just said goodnight and gone off to climb the steps to the flat, Mary said to George, "The month is up." "What month?" said George. "Henny's trial month. Remember, you agreed we'd give it a try, see how it worked out." "I didn't agree to anything," said George. "You bulldozed me into it." "Are you sorry?" "No, it seems to be working out quite well. As long as you're happy about it, Mary." "I certainly am. She does such a lot, you know. All that silver and brass cleaning, and the mending, and she irons quite beautifully. Oh, and 101 other things she does without even being asked. I've got so much spare time now that I'm actually thinking of starting an Open University degree course. I wonder how I ever managed without my housemaid." "That's a silly thing to call her." "Home help?" "Well, yes, or companion perhaps, because she's not any sort of a servant. She's become a friend. And I'm sure she's happy here, not least thanks to you." "Me?" "Yes, all that dental work you've done on her, now that she's not scared any more. What have you charged her for it?" The dentist stroked his bald head, looking faintly embarrassed. "Not a lot," he said. His wife smiled at him. "Nothing, you mean?" "Well, she hasn't exactly got money to chuck about. She only has her pension, and then she has to pay you for her bed and board, though I don't know how much you charge her." The dentist's wife ran a hand through her fair hair. She looked a trifle flustered. "Not much," she said. Her husband grinned at her. "Nothing, you mean?" The door's creaking. "Well, she's had a lot of expenses lately. Clothes, for example. I had to persuade her to replace that old coat and that tea-cosy hat, and she needed shoes and so on. And she's always spending money on the children. Did you know? Angela tells me that she regularly buys them ice creams at the beach cafe." The very first thing that Henny had done as soon as she was able to draw her pension again was to go to the cafe to reclaim her wristwatch. "Do you remember me?" she said to the owner. "I owe you some money." And she put £3 coins on the counter. "Indeed I do, madam," said the owner. "But don't forget you paid a deposit." And he handed her not just the watch, but also 1 penny that had been her sole worldly wealth when she first arrived in Saltmouth. "Thank you," said Henny. "Look after the pennies, my mother used to say, and the pounds will look after themselves." "Are you staying much longer?" said the cafe owner. "I hope so," said Henny. On that same evening that George and Mary Good had been discussing her, Henny was lying in bed in the flat thinking, "Goodness, I've been here at Ivy Cottage a month already, and what a lot has happened since I ran away from the home. And how lucky I am to be living with this family and have this lovely little room over the garage." Before she turned out the light, Henny gave a last look around. On the door of the clothes cupboard, in which were her new clothes, she had fixed with blue tack things that the children had done for her. Angela had written her a poem. "When we first set eyes on Henny, she was 75 years old. All she had was just 1 penny, but she has a heart of gold." There's a picture here of Henny. You can see the wardrobe here with the pictures. She's having a good look at them and a think about everything. Barney, his mind on his as yet unfinished World War II project, had painted her a picture of a battle. Better not do one of soldiers, he thought, seeing that her boyfriend got killed. So instead, he had done a graphic and highly coloured scene of a Lancaster bomber with strings of little bombs falling from it, while above it lots of Spitfires shot down lots of Messerschmitts in flames. Eleanor and Rosie had done portraits of her. Eleanor, who thought that Henny might be self-conscious about her height, had drawn a very tall, thin old lady. Rosie, who drew everyone the same, that is to say, the same shape as herself, had drawn her short and fat. The only similarity between the two portraits was that both were titled Henny. Hanging on the knob of the clothes cupboard was Rowley's present, a long rope of seaweed. "You can tell the weather by it," he said. "How?" asked Henny. If it stays damp and rubbery, then it's going to rain. And if it goes all dry and hard and crackly, then it will be fine. The seaweed had stayed damp, but the weather remained stubbornly fine. Mary Good, who was a keen gardener, had given her a pot plant. It's called Crassulus argentea, she said, the jade tree, but some people call it the money plant. Ooh, I've got a money plant. Perhaps I'll win the lottery, said Henny. Well, don't overwater it, said Mary. It doesn't like that. And don't worry if it doesn't do well. I've got loads more of them. Now it stood in its heavy earthenware pot on the sill of the room's one window, which was directly over the garage door. Henny always slept with the curtains partly open to let in the little light from the street lamp outside, and with the window ajar to let in the fresh sea air. She gave a last look at her poem, her 3 pictures, her seaweed and her plant. Then she took from her mouth what was the finest of her presents, from the 7th member of the Good family, a beautiful new set of false teeth, and popped them into a toothglass beside her bed and turned out the light. Henny had grown used to the occasional sounds of Saltman's late-night traffic passing Ivy Cottage, but the sound that woke her later was an unusual one. It was a kind of scraping sound of metal upon metal, and it seemed to be coming from beneath her window. Henny got out of bed and went quietly across the room and looked out. There, directly below, was a man who seemed to be trying to open the garage door. There's a picture here of Henny. You can see she's peering out the window, and there's the man underneath. The first thought was that it was George. But why would he want to get the car out at? She looked at her watch. 2 o'clock in the morning. She leaned out a little further and could now see by the light of the street lamp that it was certainly not George. George was big. This man was smallish. George was bald. This man had a lot of hair done in a ponytail. George had a key to his garage. This man, she could see, had some sort of crowbar in his hand with which he was trying, as quietly as he could, to force up the up and over door. Some old ladies in Henny's position would have screamed or shouted for help, but all Henny felt was anger. Anger on behalf of the Good family, her family as she already felt it to be. This nasty thief was actually trying to break in and steal their car, their beautiful, big, shining 8-seater monster. She had had a ride in it, and so knew that it would take 7 goods and 1 hickothrift. What's more, he was trying to steal it right under her nose. If I give a shout for George, she thought, the man will just run away. And I can't very well nip down the steps in my blue flannel nightgown with a pattern of red roses and grab him in a headlock. He may be small, but I am smaller and a heck of a sight older. Besides, he'd most likely knock my teeth out, the ones that aren't in the toothglass, I mean. What shall I do? Then her eye fell upon Barney's painting of the bomber, and then upon the money plant at her elbow. Quickly she picked up the heavy pot and held it out over the window-sill. Carefully, though her arms began to ache with the weight of it, she moved it fractionally this way and that, just like a bomber-aimer in a Lancaster, till it was, she judged, directly above that ponytailed head below. Then she dropped it. It's the end of the chapter. We'll have to find out next time what happens. Do you think Henny caught the burglar, or the would-be burglar? I don't think he actually managed to steal anything yet. Perhaps she'll be in trouble. Can't go around dropping flower pots on people's heads. Find out next time. Bye-bye.